World Mental Health Day vind jaarliks op 10 Oktober plaas. En my gas vanaand is die mental health aktivis en kunstenaar Yvette Hess wat met my gaan gesels oor haar eie journey. Goeienaand en baie welkom hier by ons.
Baie dankie.
Kom ek vra jou om te begin deur vir my te vertel wat jou definisie is van wat genoem word mental illness.
So mental illness is like a brain disorder and it affects the way you behave. So it affects firstly your energy levels and how you perceive the world, basically. So in my sense, I would become a different person when I'm ill, whether I'm manic, a lot of energy, or whether I'm depressed, little energy and not feeling up to the world.
Kan jy onthou wat die eerste keer was toe jy besef het die feit dat jy so 'n bietjie afvoel, 'n bietjie down voel, moet iets meer wees as net ek voel nie lekker vandaggie?
I would say definitely my first suicide attempt when I was 19. The fact that it came sort of out of the blue. Afterwards, I felt a lot more aware and started putting together where I started feeling low. So withdrawing more, not being one for people. And I am a people's person, so those are the kinds of things I started looking at.
Waar was jy in jou lewe op 19?
I was a dancer in the Vaal. I grew up in the Vanderbijl Park. So I was a dancer at the time. I just dropped out of university. And obviously there was a lot of expectations, and I think that was part of me not feeling well, and not living up to those expectations.
En daar is nou nog ongelukkig vandag mos 'n klomp stigmas nie rondom mental illness of mense noem dit in Afrikaans geestesversteurdheid soms.
Ja.
Hoe het jou eie familie gereageer toe hulle nou uitvind dit is wat met jou aan die gebeur is?
I think it was very difficult for them because they were trying to, and they still try to raise strong children. And I think for any parent, it must be really difficult to understand or not be able to help your child with the way that they think or the way that they perceive the world, that they are depressed. You feel completely helpless. And I think at that time when they found out, they didn't know what to do. Nobody is talking about it. It's meer van 'n skaamte.
Yeah.
So I think it was a big challenge for them to even accept and then learn how to help.
Want is steeds vir baie mense 'n taboe om na sielkundige toe te gaan want dit is amper asof hulle sê nie, die kind is nie reg nie of die kind is mal.
Ja, die kind is mal, die kind is lei. Die kind wil nie hoor nie.
Kind het issues.
Ja, die kind is difficult. Die vrou is difficult.
Yeah.
That's what I've been called, difficult. But I think there's a lot to it than just being called difficult or lazy. And I think people are more scared of what comes after because you want to know then why is that person difficult? Why is that person depressed? And that's when the secrets come out.
Wat was die secret in jou geval?
Well, I was molested when I was 7. And I think it stayed with me for a long time. And I found it very difficult not only to speak up about it, because the person who molested me, obviously, they come with those psychological games. You're going to break up the family, you can't tell, or, you're going to hurt your parents.
Was dit binne in jou huis of net binne in die close familie?
It was in the house, so somebody was looking after us. So, yeah, I think... with those types of things, it's difficult for your parents as well, because I didn't tell them initially, it only came out afterwards. So I was sitting with that for a long time. And I think even at that young age, I could see how broken my parents were because they couldn't protect me. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I didn't press charges afterwards, years afterwards, because it was going to be traumatic for them.
Jy het 2 seuns vandag?
3.
3 seuns?
Ja.
En hoe gebruik jy jou ervaring om hulle, as ek dit nou mag sê, sterker mense te maak?
It's very difficult because it's still a sensitive topic because I would never want my kids to go through that. They understand though why I'm very protective, why I don't just allow them to go to anybody's house. But as they get older, I think I'll be able to reveal more and more information to them. But for now, it's just you need to learn to protect yourself and protect your brothers. Especially with the eldest one, I've got an 11-year-old.
En jy het nou besluit jy gaan ook die rol van 'n mental health aktivis aanneem en mense wonder seker nou wat beteken dit?
Yeah, to me it means just speaking openly about it. So I was diagnosed in 2011. And I only really accepted the diagnosis officially a few years after that. And I started blogging anonymously.
Wat was die diagnose?
Bipolar disorder. Yeah. The GP actually picked up that there was it's a pattern every year that the beginning of the year I would be really well, doing well at school, chairing a whole lot of societies, and then towards the end of the year, I would crash. So he picked up, and that's when we went for a final diagnosis. And
Jy het begin blog, sê jy, maar jy's ook 'n kunstenaar.
yeah, that came later.
Okay.
So I started blogging openly about it a few years ago, and it just continued. And I started blogging with other people, because at first I blogged internationally only, and then later on, I really felt that we needed to talk about it more locally. There were not enough South African voices speaking up about mental illness. And it wasn't only about the symptoms, because that you can find readily available. There were not enough stories about the lived experience of mental illness, because that looks different with different people. And that became the focus for a few years, yeah.
Baie onlangs het die mediese dekaan van UCT selfmoord gepleeg en net die ander dag het die aktrise Shokkie Mogabe dieselfde gedoen. Jy het nou nog gesê dat jy self op 19 al 'n eerste poging aangewend het. Watse ander, as ek nou die uitdrukking mag gebruik, maniere van self-destruct het jy gedoen of probeer?
I actually wrote a poem, and one of the lines was, I ebb between self-harm and neglect. So it's obviously, as you think, it's easy to hurt yourself, but neglecting yourself and not loving yourself and not looking after yourself is also a form of a self-harm. And that comes across very strongly in my depressive episodes.
Maar dis nie asof jy jou na drank of dwelms gewend het of seksverslawing argumentshalwe nie.
Well, that can also happen, and that is probably also going to be in my book about certain things. But one of the things that I used to cope with that feeling of guilt, why you're not looking after yourself, why you're not functioning, is using alcohol. It really, it eased me when I felt uncomfortable, dealing with anxiety. But later it started worsening my symptoms as well.
Ek het nou geraak daaraan dat jy 'n kunstenaar is.
Ja.
En ek het van die kuns gesien, ontwys dit ook vir die kykers vanaand. Dis mind-blowing. Hoe werk daai proses van gaan sit en skilder? Is dit waterverf? Wat is die medium?
Ja, ek gebruik waterverf en ink, acrylic ink.
So hoe gebeur dit? Jy sit daar voor die skoon canvas en dan wat?
I play a song. I play different songs. It depends on my mood and what I'm sitting with. So at the moment, a lot of my themes are exploring how women are perceived and how we navigate these different and difficult spaces, even as packs of women, how our tribes and how we influence each other and the drama that comes with it. So that now is like my biggest theme. And then also self-love. But yeah, actually that painting thing started as a therapy. So I've been in hospital for depressive episodes every year since 2013. 3 weeks at a time, new meds, different meds, I've done a lot. And one of the things that kept coming up in my therapy sessions was the art therapy that we do as part of the clinic stay. And my therapist suggested I go to an art class and get out of the house and do something for myself. And once I got in there, hooked, and that's where it started.
Wie of wat inspireer vir Yvette Hess?
Myself. I know it seems a bit, people could say, no, it's conceited. But if I look at my journey and just feeling so good right now, so good to feel alive, that inspires me. That gets me up.
Ekskuus, jou boodskap vir mense wat hierdie selfde ervaring gaan as wat jy deurgegaan het.
There's a couple of messages, but the one that I stick to daily, because it helps me, is there's always help, so there's always hope.
Baie dankie vir jou inspirasie vanaand.
Thank you.
Hierna luister ons na die jazz en gospel musikant van Hanover Park in die Kaap, Mr. Jonathan Rubin.